voting systems people linked to Trump had, right? So here, let's start by taking a look at this. Shout out to Cody at Some More News. Just listen to what was said leading up to the election. Some of these things are quite eye-opening.
More ways than one.
And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon.
He knows those computers, those vote counting computers. You know, there was also a moment where Rogan said something that was kind of curious. He was telling a story about how Elon on election night was on his computer looking at the results, and very, very early on in the night, before anybody knew what was happening, Elon closed his laptop and said, "It's done," and walked away. Again, before anybody actually knew what was going on. Okay, all right, we're not done. There's some new gems in here that I have to show you.
What an odd way to say that. To thank Elon Musk because he knew about the vote counting computers. He didn't have anything to do with the computers. But okay, it's Trump. Dude says a lot of stuff. Stuff just pours out of his wobbly little mouth. It's hard to know what's true. Do we have anyone who could clarify this?
Yeah, I guess so. All right, we got Mini-Me here.
Yeah,
We're in
You got the vibe.
SpaceX and quietly just do whatever we want.
When we're at SpaceX, we just quietly do whatever we want, he said. All right, we're not done.
what's your assessment? Did this work? Is he going to win?
Yeah, it is. Not for now. No. Really.
I think it's done.
You think it's done?
Yeah.
But not for now.
Huh.
He just said, they'll never know. The kid just said, they'll never know. Elon goes, I think it's done. His kid goes, they'll never know. They'll never know what? What'll they never know? This is like when they were in the White House the other day, Elon and Trump, and X was there with them. And X said to Trump, you're not the president, and I want you to leave. It was something along those lines. You're not the president. You're not the real president, and I want you to leave. A kid this age, this is what you need to understand. A kid this age, they kind of copy whatever people around them are saying, whatever their dad is saying, whatever their mom is saying. So when Elon says, I think it's done, and the kid goes, they'll never know. They'll never know what? Wait, it gets darker. Ready?
I'm not fluent in child. I'm taking night classes, but did Elon's son just say, at SpaceX, we quietly do whatever we want? And then when Elon said he's confident about the election results, did the child say, they'll never know? Huh. Listen, I'm not a conspiracy guy, nor do I think Elon is smart enough or that anyone could use satellites to hack an election. But that's extremely weird, right? Equally weird that the version of this clip that Tucker Carlson posted abruptly cut all of that out.
Should we help President Trump?
Yeah.
Well, you have. I mean, it looks.
I started this.
I like your laugh. That's a laugh of an honest man.
Hey, it's
Not only did they cut it out, they cut it out in a very inartful way. They cut it out in a very inartful way. Like, it was very clear there was a hard cut there. Why would you cut that out? Oh, boy.
like cutting out the Nazi thing before. It's just weird. Like, again, just speculating, but it seems like Elon had perhaps said the words, "they'll never know," to his child in relation to the election, and then Tucker cut out the part where he repeated that. And maybe someone should perhaps investigate that.
You know, I got to be honest, in the wake of the election loss, I didn't necessarily put much stock in this particular conspiracy about, like, hey, maybe Elon directly got involved and was doing stuff with the vote counting computers, etc. Because that is it's such a difficult undertaking, and I think Elon's a bit of a fucking idiot. Not a bit of an idiot. I think he's just a colossal moron, right? But there were other variations of this conversation, which I thought were much more interesting, but is this possible? I mean, those clips are weird. Those clips are very, very bizarre, and there's been other ones too, but let's dive into the more mainstream issue here, which this is less speculative, less conspiratorial, more based on hard data. And again, keep all this in mind at the same time we're learning, yet again, Donald Trump is basically taking an axe to our election security watchdog, right? That's what he's doing. Now that he has power, he says, oh, I care about, I care about clean elections. I want to make sure everything runs well. I don't want any fraud. He says stuff like that, and then boom, so why are you going after the election security watchdog? Okay, here we go. This is Greg Palast, legendary journalist Greg Palast.
First of all, again, I get the 4,776,706 purged. That's from the United States Elections Assistance Commission. And
yeah, that's not a multiplier. You're saying
that's great. Okay, 317,000 people challenged by these vigilantes. Just so you know, that came from the group that did the challenges. They proudly announced 317,886 voters challenged by August. They were aiming for 2 million. 2.12 million mail-in ballots got disqualified. That's, by the way, if you're wondering, you know who gave me that number? National Petroleum Radio, NPR, which did an analysis, a very good analysis. And by the way, they found this year that rejected ballots, that 13.8%, 1 in 7 mail-in ballots are rejected. Now, whose ballots are they? According to the state of Washington. Again, this isn't Greg Palast coming up with this stuff. The state of Washington did an analysis of mail-in ballots rejected. And again, it's 1 in 7, that you're 400% more likely to have your ballot rejected if you're black than if you're white. That study just came out. It's not 2006. I wish it were 2006 and all that were gone. Provisional ballots. The United States Elections Assistance Commission, not Greg Palast, says that 42.3%, a lot of numbers here, that's about half, close to half, of all provisional ballots are rejected. So that would be over 1 million ballots thrown in the dumpster. Now, whose ballots? Again, according to the government, your chance of you being shunted to provisional ballot is 300% more likely if you're black, Hispanic, or Asian American. And how did this happen? We've always had these Jim Crow effects, but why was it worse this year? According to the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU Law School, and they're the best at this stuff, they said that in 30 states, almost all of them red states, 30 states passed laws making it harder for people of color to vote. 30 states in the past 4 years passed laws that are targeted at removing black voters. In one case, we did have one judge, thank God, who actually said, this is so clearly targeted with black people, it's got to go. That was in North Carolina. But for the most part, the courts have said states can do what they want. There's no right to vote in the United States Constitution. That's left up to the states. You have no constitutional right to vote, and that's one of the big problems we have.
I mean, these challenges that you described, these vigilante challenges, are just bone-numbingly awful. I mean, it's just it's insane. You lay it all out there in Vigilantes Inc. But what I really wanted to get to, and we get some of it in our chat today, is that these are hard numbers you have. These are not, you're not looking at a small sample size and then multiplying it times some kind of existing understanding about how much.
Right. In some cases, we have to use statistical corrections. And one of the big things I have to do is that there's a lot of, you will notice in all the numbers I gave you, like 4.7 million purged, a couple million challenged, 2 million mail-in ballots disqualified, et cetera. If you add it all up, it's way more than 3.5 million. But I'm taking out all the double counting. I'm taking out the fact that a lot of Hispanic men voted for Donald Trump. So you don't want to double count. You want to be very careful. You want to make some adjustments to make sure that you're not overstating. The Jim Crow effect is bad enough at 3.5 million.
You don't need to plant evidence at that crime scene. Exactly.
No. It's real bad. And you know, and my fellow journalists, come on, this stuff is sitting there for you to do. If NPR could do an analysis saying 1 in 7 ballots are thrown in the garbage, mail-in ballots are thrown in the garbage, why don't you tell us what the effect was on an election?
The reason why they don't want to do that is because everybody just spent 4 years correctly saying Trump was an election denier and he was saying things that were factually untrue about how he won when he didn't, right? And they feel like, oh my God, we'll be hypocrites if we talk about this because then we're election denying. But the difference is here we're talking about actual facts and information, real data, real numbers uncovered by a legendary journalist. And in Trump's case, it was just lies. In fact, they had over 60 court cases. A lot of them couldn't even get it to fucking trial because they had zero standing. There was absolutely no evidence for the claims that they were making. When they got in front of a court, Rudy Giuliani said, we're actually not claiming fraud. What happened? You're claiming fraud everywhere in the media, but now when you get in front of a judge, oh, we're actually not claiming fraud. When they did the audit of Arizona, because they were convinced Trump actually won Arizona, not only did Biden win, he won by more votes than what we thought he won by on election day. So their claims were bogus. Their claims were untrue. What Greg Palast is talking about here is real data. What's the exact number again? I think it's 3,565,000